Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Few jobs look more glamorous from a distance than being an astronaut. We picture weightless flips, jaw-dropping views of Earth, and the thrill of living where almost nobody has ever gone. But once the hatch closes and the mission begins, space turns into one of the most controlled environments a human being can enter. Every meal, movement, and routine has to be managed with care, because even a tiny mistake can become dangerous when there's no gravity to help and no easy escape. The ordinary habits people barely think about on Earth suddenly become complicated, messy, or flat out forbidden in orbit. And since everyone has one comfort they would miss first, tell us in the comments which would be the hardest for you to give up: a cold drink, a private room, fresh bread, or a full night of sleep. The truth is, astronauts are forbidden from doing many perfectly normal things once they're living in space. No boozy drinks. Astronauts are not allowed to drink alcohol in space. That rule is about more than simple discipline. In orbit, the body is already struggling to adapt to microgravity, shifting fluids, and a confused sense of balance. Adding alcohol to the situation would make it even harder to think clearly or react quickly. It matters because astronauts are constantly surrounded by sensitive equipment, demanding tasks, and situations where good judgment matters. A small mistake on Earth can be embarrassing. A small mistake in space can threaten the mission or put lives at risk. No bread.
So the first thing we need for our sandwich is a piece of bread. Well, up here we don't have bread like you do on Earth, but we have tortillas. So we use tortillas a lot for sandwiches. So that's what I'm going to use for my peanut butter and jelly.
Bread is one of the most ordinary foods imaginable, yet it is effectively banned in orbit. The reason comes down to crumbs. On Earth, they fall onto a plate, a table, or the floor. In space, they float, drift, and linger. Those tiny crumbs can get into eyes, air filters, vents, and electronics. That's why tortillas became the preferred substitute. They're flexible, easy to store, and far less likely to break apart into dozens of little hazards. No proper crying.
So, just as if I've started crying, my eye is full of tears. But you can see it just forms a ball on my eye. In fact, I can put more water in. And so if you keep crying, you just ended up with a bigger and bigger ball of water in your eye.
Astronauts can cry, but they cannot cry the way people do on Earth. Tears do not slide down the face in microgravity. Instead, they gather around the eyes and form a blob of salty liquid that just sits there until it's wiped away. That makes an already uncomfortable moment even worse. The tears sting, blur vision, and create one more reminder that the human body was not built for space. Even emotion becomes a maintenance issue. No privacy.
It's like being in a small house for a long period of time. We eat, drink, sleep, exercise, all in very close proximity to each other. So luckily we like each other a whole lot, and it makes it easier to get along. The ground team, Mission Control, does watch on cameras often, but they do allow us to turn those cameras off at the end of our workday so that we do have some privacy in the evening.
One of the toughest things astronauts give up is privacy. The station may sound roomy in theory, but once it's filled with people, supplies, and equipment, personal space becomes very limited. Sleeping quarters are tiny, and even those are not truly isolated. That means there's almost always someone nearby. Conversations, routines, and quiet moments all happen in a shared environment. Over time, that lack of separation can wear on people just as much as the physical demands of the mission. No open air.
Our first true sense of being home was a window full of the dirt of the earth and the smell of spring and the growing grasses in Kazakhstan wafting in through the open hatch.
Astronauts can look through station windows, but they absolutely cannot open anything to get fresh air. That sounds obvious, but it also captures how sealed off life in orbit really is. Outside the station is vacuum, and inside is a carefully maintained bubble of pressure and oxygen. If that barrier were broken, the results would be catastrophic. Even a small leak is treated as a serious emergency. So while astronauts enjoy some of the best views in existence, they spend months breathing recycled air with no chance to step outside unless they are suited up for a spacewalk. No regular pens. Regular ballpoint pens are not reliable in zero gravity, so astronauts are not allowed to depend on them the way we do on Earth. Many common pens rely on gravity helping move the ink toward the tip. In orbit, that can fail. Pencils are not a great fallback either. Broken tips and graphite dust can float around the cabin, and graphite is conductive. That makes even writing a note something that has to be carefully thought through in space. No laundry day. Astronauts cannot wash clothes the normal way in space. There's no standard washing machine on the station, and water's too valuable to waste on laundry. Wet fabric is also difficult to dry in a controlled environment. So clothes are worn, reused, and eventually thrown away. Dirty items are packed into cargo craft that later burn up during re-entry. It's not glamorous, but it is practical, and it means the station can get a lot less fresh than people might imagine. No easy sleep.
Sleep stations or sleep pods. And inside each one is just a sleeping bag tied to the wall.
Getting a good night's sleep is one of the hardest things astronauts are not really able to do. The station circles Earth so quickly that the crew sees sunrise and sunset again and again in a single day. That can throw the body clock into chaos. The noise doesn't help either. Fans, pumps, and other life support systems create a constant background hum, and the odd sensation of floating while trying to rest and sleep becomes far more difficult than most people expect. No free sneezing.
I did have to sneeze in space, so the lesson learned there is brace yourself.
Astronauts are not allowed to sneeze carelessly. In space, droplets do not fall away and disappear onto the floor. They can hang in the air and drift through the cabin, which is a serious concern in a shared environment with recycled air. That's why containment matters so much. A simple sneeze on Earth is usually forgettable. In orbit, it becomes something people have to think about, control, and clean up carefully, because illness spreads very differently in a sealed habitat. No skipping workouts.
In the absence of the effects of gravity, if we don't do anything about it, very quickly our muscles get very weak and even our bones start to dissolve away. Why? Because everything is so lightweight here. There's no real need to be strong for daily life on orbit.
Astronauts are not allowed to ignore exercise. On Earth, missing a workout might only affect your fitness goals. In space, it affects your ability to function. Without gravity, muscles weaken and bones begin losing density far faster than most people realize. That's why daily exercise is mandatory and takes up a major part of the schedule. Even after long workdays, astronauts still have to use specialized equipment to keep their bodies from adapting too much to zero gravity. If they don't, returning home can be physically overwhelming. Now it's time to hear from you. Which of these space rules do you think would be the toughest to live with if you were the one spending months in orbit? Let us know in the comments section below.